Hey, what's going on, True Blazer fans? It's Tori, and welcome back to another Monday Mailbag. Now, I'm releasing this Monday Mailbag before I release my weekly recap. I'm going to get you guys that video tonight, at least part one of it. Luckily, we've had a few days off because I am late with this weekly recap, but I'll definitely be getting it to you guys tonight. I have no idea what time, but I'm going to get you this Monday Mailbag first. And I'm not going to mess around. We're going to jump straight into your guys' questions from the past week. MadMax1307 said, where do you truly believe the Blazers fit in the hierarchy of the league? What is our identity / spot in the West? And do you think it would be different in the East? Also, what conference do you think is stronger this season? I think the Western Conference is much stronger than the Eastern Conference. I think there's 12 teams from the West that would make the playoffs in the East. In terms of what tier we are, I don't think we're a true contender. The true contenders would probably be Toronto, maybe Milwaukee, Golden State, and I might put Boston up there just because they have so much talent, but those are my top 4 teams. I would put us in that second tier with OKC, Denver, Utah, Houston, Philadelphia. Would have put Indiana up there before they lost Oladipo. I think we're in that second tier of teams. In terms of where we'll finish in the Western Conference, I think we'll finish with a 4th seed. I think we'll finish behind Golden State, of course, Denver, and then one of OKC and Houston. In the end, I think it will be pretty close there. AJSC Blazer fan said, have you noticed that Jusuf Nurkic has started this year averaging over 20 points per game? Do you think in the future he can be an all-star or even get a good amount of votes for it? Now, Jusuf Nurkic is going to need to be able to play more than 27 minutes per game in order to be an all-star. He'd need to get that up around 32-33 minutes per game. Part of that is conditioning, part of that is not fouling so much. But per 36, he's getting something like 20 points per game, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists. That's very, very, very good numbers, especially for a guy who's a very good defender as well. So if he's able to even improve a little bit and then bump his minutes up, he'd definitely be averaging numbers that could get him into the all-star game. Now, he'd also probably need Portland to be very, very successful by the time they voted for reserves. But if the team was top 3 in the West, combined with those other things I mentioned, then yes, I do think he can be an all-star. And I honestly don't think that that's that far away from where he is now. Numeza says, do you think we're going to go on a post-all-star game run like we have in previous years? I think last year's run was fueled by some injuries to other teams, and the year before that, Dame got snubbed. It's going to be very hard to go on a run because we have the longest road trip I've ever seen right after the all-star break, where we play 7 games in the course of 16 days or something like that. I believe they leave on February 19th and get back on March 6th. That's an insanely long road trip, and we play teams like Boston, Toronto, teams like that. It's going to be very hard to go on a run right after the all-star break. But after we get back from that road trip, I think we have a very, very easy schedule during the month of March, so I could honestly see us rattling off a big winning streak because we should be favored in most of those games during the month of March. Anonymous Gaming says, do you think we should run a 2-3 zone? Honestly, I think we would be better equipped than most NBA teams to run it because on the bottom corners of that 2-3 zone, you have Aminu and you have Harkless, and both those guys are long and lanky and they can cover a lot of ground, which you need to be able to do in a zone. I would only play a zone against a team that really struggles to shoot because good shooting is the way you beat a zone. You just spread out the zone, move the ball, attack gaps, make the zone collapse and kick out. But with defensive 3 seconds and the key being a call in the NBA, it's very hard to run a 2-3 zone. It's very hard for that center to be where he needs to be in that zone protecting the rim. If Layman continues to play near the level he's been at lately for the rest of the season, what do you think it would cost for the Blazers to re-sign him? I honestly think around $7 million a year is kind of the level that he's playing at. I think a team will give him an offer sheet in that range, but you never know. A team like Brooklyn, who's screwed us over in the past, could come in and offer him $12 million a year on an offer sheet if they don't land any free agents this summer. Owen Richmond says, does a lineup with all 3 of Dame, CJ, and Seth intrigue you? The NBA website says they have only played together for 50 minutes this season, but they have an outstanding 118 offensive rating. Would that lineup work if it was deployed more often? And honestly, that lineup only works in certain situations. You could not put a 3-guard lineup out there against guys like LeBron James or Paul George playing at the small forward position because who's going to guard them? Are you going to have CJ or Seth guard LeBron or Paul George? That just would not work. Would get absolutely destroyed. But in certain situations, when the opposing team doesn't have a good small forward or they have a smaller small forward, that lineup does work. Offensively, it's absolutely great because Seth Curry is such an elite shooter that him spacing the floor for Dame and CJ at the same time, he's a perfect fit at that small ball 3 position. Defensively though, it just can't get destroyed. It has to be the right matchup in order to deploy that lineup, which has been the reason why it's only played 50 minutes this season. Mappy says, how do you feel about Seth Curry leading the bench as the primary ball handler instead of Evan Turner? If this happens, I believe Seth could be putting up stats similar to what he had in Dallas. I do like him handling the ball a little bit more. He was a decent pick and roll ball handler in Dallas. His passing is much worse this year. He's not really looking for guys, he's only looking for his own shot, but that might be because he's not the primary ball handler at all. But being the primary ball handler is the only role that Evan Turner is even decent in, so I don't know if I'd take Evan Turner out of that role. But if we're going to bench Evan Turner or trade Evan Turner, then I would like to see Seth Curry as the primary ball handler off the bench, unless we got another point guard like Jeremy Lin. DIO says, what do you like most about how we play offense and defense and are most bothered by on offense and defense? Offensively, I like the way we utilize that Dame and Nurkic pick and roll. That's a very lethal pick and roll duo and we utilize it a lot. On defense, there's no one particular thing that I really like in terms of our defense. What am I most bothered by on offense? It's when we get super stagnant. I hate when we get stagnant, when our sets break down to pressure. That's something that happens a lot. And then on defense, I hate how we're not versatile. I hate how we don't switch up pick and roll schemes depending on who the ball handler and or the roll man is. I hate how we don't throw offenses different looks to keep them off balance. I hate that we just run the same scheme every single time down the floor, no matter what the situation is. Now, there's a lot more to that question. I would answer the rest of it, but you guys gave me a ton of questions this week, so I don't really have the time to get around to it. But that's not a complaint, because I asked you guys for a lot of questions this week and you guys came through. Josh Ellison says, what do you think about the Blazer broadcast? I'm not a fan of the announcers, particularly that they are not from here and don't know the team's history very well. The replays during the game have been my biggest problem. They never show the bad replays. They never showed a replay of Nurk's big block on Davis. The broadcast consistently misses quick plays after scores when they are zoomed into somebody's face and doesn't go back and show the play we missed in a replay. Now, our broadcast team is one of the best, honestly. I've seen other broadcasts and our quality of broadcast, our quality of production, everything that goes into it, it's top notch for a local broadcast. As far as the announcers go, they don't have to be local. I don't understand why people want them to be from Portland. They do know their Blazer basketball well, and it's funny that you say that Calabro doesn't know his history in terms of the Blazers because he was announcing for our rival going back into the 1990s, maybe even the 1980s. So he's been around the NBA and been around the Northwest for years, for decades. So he knows his stuff. He knows his history. I don't know why you would say he doesn't know his history. Maybe there's something in particular. Maybe you could explain it to me down below, but I don't feel the same way. Hurd has gotten a lot better since when he first started, a lot less cringy, a lot more analytical. He's very good at breaking down plays while that game is progressing. He's a guy that I really enjoy listening to. He went from a guy that I couldn't really stand listening to a guy who's one of the best color commentators in the league in my opinion. I do like our broadcast now. I know it's hard to switch over from guys that the city loves like Mike and Mike, but we've given it enough time. I do like our broadcasters right now. While there is things that I don't like in terms of the broadcast team and some of the clips, some of the angles they show, that'll happen with any broadcast. GG Snub says, do you think the lack of parity is a problem for the NBA, knowing exactly what's going to happen in the finals year after year, as well as top free agents only going to one of the 4 teams, takes away from the sport in my mind? And I agree. Imagine the Western Conference without the Golden State Warriors and without the possibility of Anthony Davis going to the Lakers, because that makes me sick. But imagine how much parity there would be. Now look at the Eastern Conference. You have 3, maybe 4 teams that could legitimately win the East. The Golden State Warriors have just messed a lot of things up. If you had an equal spread of talent, this would be the best league on the planet. The parity, the competitiveness, that would be absolutely amazing to watch, and I wish it was the case. Sadly, it'll never be the case. And in the NBA, where 1 to 2 elite players can absolutely make a team, you'll always have issues with top-heavy rosters beating up on rosters without stars, and you'll always have the problem of big markets always seeming to land those big-name players over the small markets. So that's all the time I got for now. Thank you guys for all your questions. I couldn't get to them all. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, make sure to leave them down below, and I'll try and answer them next week. Thank you guys for all your support. I'm out of here. Go Blazers.